Kingfisher Airlines has lost its flying license. The airline's wings were clipped after the DGCA was not happy with the response, not satisfied with the response that it got to the show cause notice. The airline had sought an extension on today's deadline for replying to the DGCA's show cause notice. So the crisis-ridden airline's license has now been suspended by the DGCA. But the airline earlier also indicated it was no closer to paying its employees and announced that the lockout has been extended till October 23rd. Let's get more details from Durga Nandini, who now joins us on the phone line. Durga, what does it effectively mean?
Well, what we are hearing from DGCA sources is that there is going to be an infinite suspension of the license which has been given to Kingfisher Airlines. In fact, what we are also hearing that till further notice, Kingfisher Airlines will not be able to operate its services. So as of now, it basically means a blanket ban on Kingfisher from operating any of its flights. Now, what the DGCA has told Kingfisher is that they will have to come back with a sustainable business plan if they want to operate, and only if the DGCA is convinced will their license be reconsidered. So at this point in time, we're hearing that Kingfisher has suffered a huge setback. It will not be able to operate any of its flights. Remember, it had already cancelled a whole lot of its operations in the backdrop of a lot of employee unrest. There was a huge problem of employees going on strike because of non-payment of 7 months of salaries were concerned, and it was already in doldrums. And now, after several reminders and several summoning of the top brass of Kingfisher, finally the DGCA has cracked its whip.
All right, Durga, just stay with us. We have aviation expert Denzel Keeler now joining us on the phone line. Mr. Keeler, what does this really mean for the airline? We know the lockdown period has now been, lockout has been extended till the 23rd of this month. It appears they do not have any good revival plan which can actually impress the DGCA. This suspension, what does it effectively mean for the airline?
This means that the airline has to now shut down. The decision taken is because once the airline reaches below a certain level, it is not possible to recover because the margin of recovery is very small. The profits they make is only 3%. So this is why he has gone into the red, where he's always tried to ignore the fact that the recovery capability of his airline is so small, of all airlines is so small, that you can't afford to go below a certain level.
Right, and it also appears that Kingfisher management cannot actually come up with any sort of viable financial revival plan, which is why the DGCA too has not been satisfied with the response that they got to the show cause notice.
A revival plan really means that he should be able to make profit, and so that if he continues to run, apart from his operating costs, he should be able to also recover his debt. That is the revival plan. Now, he can't even pay staff. Then what revival plan can he put up? You see, the cost of operation should equal the cost of money you're earning to be on level. Now here, to recover, you have to start showing large margins of profit. If your average profit is 3% and the best of conditions, he is nowhere near that. He's below the line. He's not making any profit from anywhere. He can't even pay his staff.
All right, Mr. Keeler, does it also mean suspension? Does it also mean suspension of this license that's come from DGCA? Does it mean that the Kingfisher may still have a lifeline, or the shutdown is now imminent?
It is. A suspension is only mean that the license is held until you can prove it otherwise. Otherwise, they cancel it. So his suspension is worded in such a way, giving an opening for him to carry on. But he suspended operations until he can make a viable proposal and prove it on the ground.
All right, and the management, as we know, Mr. Keeler, has been in talks with the striking employees who refused to come back to work, considering that some of them have not even been paid salaries in the last 7 to 8 months. There has been immense pressure on the management to actually resolve this crisis, but it appears there is no sort of meeting ground between the management and the striking employees.
Non-viability of breaking even, leave alone the profit. He is not even able to now satisfy the staff and pay their wages and pay the fuel and pay the airport cost for him to operate. How is he going to pay back his debt of 70,000 crores if he is not even able to run at a break-even?
Right. Mr. Keeler, do you think this was in the offing, the manner in which the airline was in the red for so long? But in a sense, Kingfisher, it appears, as many say, was given a long rope, which is why it was able to carry out the operations at least till last month.
Yeah, he's an unpredictable person. It's like Deccan Air. Gupta was the captain Gopinath was in charge. He knew when to pull out and he pulled out immediately. The moment you can't fund your operation, day-to-day operations, you must call it a day. Now, he is obviously a bit of a spoiled child and a lot of money and all the rest of it, so he let it drift into a place where he's below the pauper. He's the point at no recovery.
All right, beyond the point of no recovery. Mr. Keeler, what does it broadly mean for the aviation sector? Because this was one of the most popular airline, which is now on the verge of shutdown. Its license has been revoked. What does it mean for others in the sector? And more importantly, for the flyers?
Something like 15% of the traffic. Slowly, the traffic has come down to already 2. And the vacancies have been taken up by the other airlines. So if he stops now, it will not be such a major jolt. At this point of time, it will not be such a major jolt, and the other airlines will immediately step up the operation.
But what about the flyers, sir? What about the passengers? What about the flyers?
I suspect the cost will go up.
All right, so this could also mean the immediate impact that we could see of this would be the costs of flying could go up, the air tickets could cost more, so that's certainly not good news for passengers, for flyers. But in the meantime, this is a decision that's now been taken by the airline watchdog, by the aviation watchdog DGCA, which is now cancelled, which is in fact, let me correct myself, which has suspended the license of Kingfisher Airlines as it is not satisfied with the response that it's got from the Kingfisher management to the show cause notice that was issued. Denzakira, thank you very much for joining us with your views. Durga Nandini is still with us on the phone line. Durga, what are we hearing about the immediate plans of Kingfisher management? Are they still hoping against hope that they might find a solution to what looks like now an imminent shutdown?
Well, Ruchika, they do not have an immediate turnaround plan. That's been the biggest problem for the airline. In fact, what has happened is the airlines was not able to even convince its own employees that they had some concrete plan in place, which is precisely why this employee unrest had even blown out of proportion, had really blown up into a huge problem for them. Now, that being the case, they have not been able to convince their employees, they have not been able to convince the DGCA or the ministry, and at this point in time, definitely it is very clear that there is no equity coming in from any part of the world. In fact, even after FDI in aviation was cleared by the cabinet, we see that Vijay Mallya has not succeeded in actually bringing in any investor, any investor showing any interest in this airline. So at this point in time, the airline is not showing any signs of a revival, so which is precisely why it is suffering setback after setback.
Well, a massive setback there that's come now from the DGCA as it suspended the license of Kingfisher Airlines after it was not satisfied with the response that it got to the show cause notice that was issued to Vijay Mallya-owned Kingfisher Airlines.